Do, 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 do. Oh, you know what? I might, it says add stream, and so I'm just learning this stuff, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Yes! I always go the wrong direction. Yay! Because it's backwards compared to other ones. I hope you can hear me. I use StreamYard now, and I'm using this in an effort to try to show other things on the screen. So I tried doing that before, and it didn't really work. I always go the wrong way because it's all backwards. My hair's a mess. Always got to look spiffy. I got my Charles Nelson stylies on. That's what these glasses are. I grabbed the wrong glasses today. Um, so as of right now, I can't really put up another screen. I will learn how to do all this. I swear. I swear. Please like, share, and subscribe to the show. Just share the show. Tell people to check it out. Check out my Charles Nelson stylies. I have a really unique and interesting story. I'm a musician from Detroit, just like a lot of people, Iggy Pop, Alice Cooper, all these guys from 6 Mile and Gratiot. Eminem made 8 Mile iconic because that was the dividing line in Detroit between the Woods and the Bloods, as they like to call it. I'm not interested in gang life, and I'm not interested in gang tactics. Why? Because they're police officer tactics. That's what they are. And it's created by the military and the police. I have 3 sisters, and they all graduated top of their class. And if I had their grades and I went into the military, I would have been tapped 100%. I look at life on the right side of my brain. I'm a creative person, and I see patterns. So, but you have to understand something that people's interests change over time. Right now, my interest is doing the show. It's growing the show. Unfortunately, I can't show you the the screen right now. I just haven't figured that out yet. I was a little bit too busy. I've been a little bit too busy this week. I moved out to Los Angeles, in case you guys don't know. This thing right here is weaponized. It's weaponized neurologically. And a number of people had fake Facebook accounts, and that's how they can neurologically scramble your brain. And that's what happened to me. And it happened to me around the 2017 era. And in this time, another singer, I'm not really a singer, I'm a songwriter. And people don't know that. So I had to sing the songs. We couldn't get anybody else to sing the songs. And we play oi punk. I write just rock and roll and oi punk songs. If you guys get a chance, check out Duff McKagan being interviewed by Henry Rollins. I think this only took place like a couple of years ago. I just watched it. It's really great. I talk about these guys a lot. I talk about a lot of things on this program. So my wife had a fake Facebook account, and she would point this at me, and it caused severe irritation. And she gaslit me. She did this for 7 years. And other people were using it, and a lot of police officers know about it. A lot of people use it. There's certain people, they'll use Instagram if you have an Instagram, or they'll come through, quote unquote, through this device. And that's why I was really surprised. I've also proved on this, I was surprised that they were using basically such a big app like Facebook or Instagram. I thought that they were using these smaller companies, or they just hacked into my phone. Okay, but what I discovered right here on this channel, guys, please like and share and subscribe and all that stuff. Facebook is bigger than the United States government. We all know that. Like, literally, it's bigger. The United States government works for these corporations. The corporations are bigger than that. Okay? Google came out of ARPANET and DARPANET. We discovered that the Google, it's a play on the word called Google, it's 10 to the 100th power. And that means something is weaponized when it comes to hertz, and that's cycles per second. And when they can crank it up that high, it attacks you neurologically. Okay? I mean, I can sue for $250,000,000,000. I love that number. It's my favorite number. It's quadrillion. You have to look it up yourself. Right? So cycles per second, this causes irritation. Okay, I talk a lot about Stanley Kubrick. I'm in West Hollywood right now. I'm looking to pitch my idea. I did a 4-hour Napoleon's birthday, yes, August 15th pitch for Linoleum Blown Apart. I talk about niche. Okay, here's what I don't do. I don't aggregate the news. I just don't. You want to go to DeFango's channel, go to DeFango's channel and sit there and scroll Twitter and read news. That's what Steel Toe does. I watch Steel Toe. I'm trying to think of some other ones, okay, that I subscribe to. A lot of comedic podcasts. Each cringe stand-up comedian has 3 podcasts now. This is what the new normal. Okay. The new normal is for these cringe stand-up comedians to have 3 podcasts. Okay. So whatever that's about, it's all this big ass kissing fest. And I'm not into it. I think people can go on podcasts and get into heated conversations and have heated debates without a fist fight breaking out. I think people can have opposing views to each other and go on the same podcast and talk about things and debate each other and this kind of stuff. And things can get heated, who says that you can't be friends after that? But I talk a lot about Stanley Kubrick. Now, don't forget, I developed Linoleum Blown Apart pretty much live right here on my show. Okay, this is a novel that I'm writing. And so I already wrote another book. It's called Two-Legged Animal. I wrote that literally almost 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I came out with it in 2015. I was collecting all my writing from over the years. And, again, like I said, in Detroit, I never had any support. They made fun of my band. They changed the names of my songs. There was 3 record labels who could have worked with me. I'm like, we're friends. We hang out. We're doing drugs together. We're drinking together. We're going to the same shows together. They didn't want to put out anything of mine. So I left. And after I left, my ex-girlfriend sends her mother with a police officer to come push me around. And they think this kind of stuff is funny. Well, I talk about this stuff on my show. I'll talk about whatever I want. Sorry, I'm a little bit somber. Usually I make jokes and stuff like that, but I don't really like LARPing people. I think people who do that are fucking trash. And I'm not afraid to catch a case if I go to jail, whatever it is. I think this LARPing that she did to me back in 1993, I'm talking about some ex-girlfriend from Detroit's mother. This is writ large right now. Everybody does it now. And so I had asked this same ex-girlfriend if I could use her picture, because we took a picture together. And I'm like, oh, this is a cool picture. I want to use it on my book. That was a long time ago. And then so I basically found out that 100% these people in Detroit and Michigan are connected with this online serial harassment, number 1. These are Fed rats, number 2. And they used my drummer to be down in Florida while I was getting a divorce. And they were running what's known as QOps, which is where you question your sexuality. I didn't know what's going on. They all think it's hilarious, but hey, I consider it running a train on my brain. How about that? You want to use that for a... But anyways, this episode's called Let Them Eat Glass Onions, right? So it's based on Let Them Eat Jelly Beans. I'm an old school punk rocker. And like I said, this drummer who I played in a band with, who I trusted, you have to trust your friends, he completely turned on me. And then in 2021, May 1st, he put behavioral malware on my computer. They were already coming through the Facebook app, which they can do. And they can come through, and what they do is they crank up the algos, and it causes severe confusion. And so you might be given meds and a bed or you can get tossed in the clink, or the police might be able to cause you to act so crazy. Not the police, but you got the police that are arresting you, but then you have these Fed rats can cause you to act so crazy that the police will be like, well, he might die in custody. That's exactly what happened to somebody else who is associated with Detroit alternative music. Okay. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. This drummer put this on. I discovered it. He ran like the bitch that he is. Okay. He runs in conjunction with skinheads and white boys in Detroit. And what they did is when they found this out, they started a humiliation ritual by releasing something on World Star Hip Hop that was recorded in 2002. I'm utterly convinced. I have no problem talking with these people on my show. I have no problem talking to anybody except my ex-wife. I never want to see this person again. She was torturing me for 7 years, so she might be involved in a civil rights lawsuit. Okay? So I talk about a lot of things, guys, on my show. I got to put on my Charles Nelson stylies. I forgot my other glasses. I don't look very spiffy today. And, we're in a weird place. And I'm going to be looking things up. We're going to start off by, okay, so this is a little bit difficult. So I'm talking about being neurologically linked to your device. And Elon Musk is talking about Neuralink. They use this as an electronic shock collar. And people think it's funny. Police officers all know about this. This is weaponized. Okay. I already explained to you, right, about the Google. So, and that is cycles per second in hertz. And that's HERTZ, but it's also HURTS because it crushes you. And this was used on me numerous times. And this was by people that I knew from New York to Michigan. So instead of, going to DeFango show and watching him scroll the news and being in his little safe space, you can actually get involved in my show and you can do a FOIA request on my name. And we could catch these Fed rats if you dare to get involved in my show. I'm out here in Hollywood. I'm here to actually work. And I was an actor and a production assistant in New York, and I was there. Like I said, I got into a little bit of trouble. I was arrested a couple times. I was arrested in Washington Square Park for buying marijuana. I was arrested in a domestic case against a former girlfriend of mine. And people took this and ran with it. They were like, oh, he got busted for a domestic case. They brought it up as recently as a year ago. And that's what these trashy people do. I think they're trying to have me canceled or whatever it is. And I just laugh. But it was really, truly heartbreaking to find out my drummer and my wife glommed onto this. They were expecting me to commit suicide. That's what they wanted. And they scrambled my brain so hard. If you want to see a victim of this, take a look at Nathan Stoltman on Lift the Veil. You can't even find his channel. He's buried. You can find channels who talk about Nathan Stoltman, but you can't find his channel. And he just comes on and he just blathers on about bullshit. Okay. And he jumps from, I jump around too. Like a lot of people have this ADHD type of talking. But guys, you have to understand. Hello, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. So you have to understand this kinetic way of thinking. I'm trying to find the good side of being Neuralinked. Okay, because I already suffered the bad side. And the worst part about it wasn't physical pain, because it causes physical pain. It really does. It scrambles your brain. It's just the fact that here I am with a woman who all she had to do was tell me she didn't love me. It's pretty much as simple as that. Hey, Gordon, I don't love you. Why don't you pack your shit and go? Nope. That's not what she did at all. She wanted me to die. And it's just bizarre to me. I don't know why. And then again, they ran Q-ops down in Florida. They think that kind of thing's funny. I guess it's funny. Like I said, I grew up with a gay kid in my neighborhood. I've been friends with LGBT people my entire life. I'm part of the LGBT community here in Los Angeles, and I'm intellectually superior enough to know what an ESG score is. Okay. And anyone who doesn't understand this to be pretty shameful, to have Bud Light, use somebody like Dylan Mulvaney and then have the alt white, which is what I call the alt right. So the alt white come in and attack Dylan Mulvaney. Why are you attacking Dylan Mulvaney? And I think a lot of smart people are kind of wising up. They're like, hey, you know what? They're attacking Budweiser, right? But they're doing it for all the wrong reasons. They should be excoriating them for propping up somebody in the LGBT community to take the bead for, them trying to get one over on, right, the public. Nobody's coming up with this notion. Nobody's kind of carving things down like that, right? You're just kind of accepting this. And what I'm trying to tell you is this: it's being delivered to you through Media Deep Blue. And that's what I call it, because Hal from Stanley Kubrick, one letter off from IBM, that's why his name was Hal, is Deep Blue. Okay, and Deep Blue, we all know, is AI. Everybody's talking about AI. I'm the only one who talks about the fact that you are ascribed an AI when you go to these social media sites. I'm only on YouTube. Yes. I'm YouTube exclusive, and I will go on to anybody else's podcast. I'll talk to anyone from Detroit, anyone from the Detroit music scene. I'll talk to anyone. I'll talk to any celebrity, anybody. I'm not intimidated by anybody. I can have a conversation as long as there's something to have a conversation about. But what it seems to me, I'm talking to a lot of these other people who actually believe that being sarcastic means that you're winning an argument. I'm not really sure. I think you kind of move on from that after you're in your when you reach your 30s to 40s. You got to start losing that whole sarcastic thing. Well, I'm being, tit for tat with you, so I'm winning the argument. It's like the argument is actually based on the information that you have to deliver and the proofs that you have. Okay. And so if we live in a society that's just going to defer to default, I had a fling with Bing. Oh boy. If you're going to have a fling with Bing, right, then what are you going to do with your intuition? Well, your intuition is going to be manipulated by AI, by Neuralink, more than likely. I'm not against Bill Gates. You're not seeing this dialectic on my show because we are intellectually superior. I came out the other side of this. In case you don't know, this girlfriend who sent her mother to LARP me in the 90s, they were calling me Zoolander. They called me Zoolander for so long that it ended up in this attempted murder of my family. They were going to murder my family and they were going to blame me, Zoolander. That's what they were going to do. And there's this other POS who's afraid of a fist fight. I'm not afraid of a fist fight, man. So I'm not sure why a grown man is going around lampooning me for 30 years. And I don't even know this dude, man. Right. So this is what happens, right? So you have the notion of whispering a secret. Sorry, I keep going to the wrong side. Whispering a secret in somebody's ear and it goes around the room. And when it comes back, it's completely distorted. Well, that's what happened. I was working in the 90s. I told you, Don Buchwald Agency dropped the ball because nobody was working more than me. And everybody at the American Indian Community House knew it. But the most important person who I love really, truly the most out of there is Jim Cyrus, and he passed away. Jim was great. Jim knew I was working. So again, it's just a series of missed opportunities. Hey, man, I'm still alive. What am I going to do with my life? I moved out to Los Angeles after this nasty divorce, and I started working on this idea. And I said, well, I have the Phantom of the Paradise. I saw the Phantom of the Paradise when I was 9 years old when it came out. I urge you to see this film. It's a great film, but you have to have that nostalgia mode on. And by the way, I do flirt with women on YouTube. I just do. Okay. So that's just the way it is. If I leave a comment, it means I'm flirting with you. It means like I'm interested in you. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with online dating if that's how we're doing it now. And, and I don't think there's anything wrong that if you don't reciprocate, then I understand that you're not interested. So that's just how I roll. Like, that's how I butter my roll, I should say. I started writing love letters to girls because I was never taught to be in what they call an alpha male. I'm delta, okay, which means I just sit there, mind my business, and again, now we have. I bet you I'm using this wrong. Boy, it really bothers me, but I'm going to do another tutorial. I won't put it online. I'll just do it. However, because I know I can do this, guys. This is going to be a great show. Please stick with me. I always have to give you my backstory. Why? Because it leads us up into today. It leads us up into right now. Right? Yeah. Right. So, anyways, I grew up as a punk rocker. I taught myself to write songs. And these people who lampoon me, it takes two of them to write the songs. It only took me. And if I had a group of me, the world would have opened up. I was actually supposed to put out an album called Me, Myself, and Ison with a guy named Gordon Ison from Manchester, England. And I was going to record it at where Morrissey actually recorded the Smiths and a lot of those bands, The Fall, okay, in Manchester, England. That was my plan. And I had $20,000 to do it. Yeah. And everybody turned on me. So there's no backsies. If you want redemption, if you want to be my friend, you have to come on my show. Okay. I'm trying to work it out. I'm trying to create this show. I'm trying to get it to where I can interview desks, and I will be doxing people again. I've doxed people before in the past. I will be doxing them again. I'm going to put their pictures right up here, man. That's my plan. But I also will be talking about other, ideas and notions. And this is kind of what I wanted to get to a little bit here. I'm not here to do somebody else's show, and I'm not here to aggregate the news. I think doing that, you're part of Media Deep Blue, and you're just getting affected. You're getting neurologically triggered by these news stories, and these news stories are memes. Okay, they're memes. They're nothing more than memes. Okay, so for whatever that's worth. So based on, oh, you know what? I forgot to pull up. Sorry, guys. You're going to be looking at me doing this quite a bit. Yay. Sorry. Here it is. So this is where we kind of started here. Standing in the dock at Southampton, trying to get to Holland or France. The man in the Mac said, "You've got to go back. You know they didn't even give us a chance. Christ, you know it ain't easy. You know how hard it could be. The way things are going, they're gonna crucify me." Yeah, that's a ballad of John and Yoko. The way things are going, they're gonna crucify me. What happened to John Lennon? He was crucified. He was killed. Uh, we talk a little bit about, the day the music died. And is it a happy accident, right? Is it I hate to say a happy accident, but John Lennon died right at the beginning of American hardcore. Now, punk rock already started. Keith Richards talks about punk rock. I really like the era that Paul McCartney was doing new wave music. I really like that. Coming up like a flower. I really remember this era a lot. And again, don't forget what got us here was the Manson mythos. Quentin Tarantino just did something about Manson. Marilyn Manson is a reaction to Charles Manson. Tom O'Neill was just on Joe Rogan, who's allowed to be on YouTube because I'm YouTube exclusive. Thank you. I really appreciate being here. And he took the mick out of this Manson mythos. He said it was a complete operation, okay, which is scary business because it all took place right here in Los Angeles. When I first moved here, I had some jackass where I was working at an art handling company threatened to turn me into the new Manson. And I got African-American gang members doing the same thing with OJ. We'll turn you into the next OJ kind of bullshit. I mean, this kind of stuff is utterly ridiculous. This is a scare tactic, and you can both go fuck yourself however you can somehow, right? I'm not going to put up with it. So I'm fully confident in everything that I do, just like the day I left Detroit and moved to New York. And before you knew it, I was working for MTV. Just as a side note, I told you about Duff McKagan and Hank from Black Flag interviewing. Please check that out. Great stuff on there. I knew Duff McKagan was an old punk rocker. He was in a punk rock band, and then he became a member of the biggest band in the world. This is a template for my project called Linoleum Blown Apart. But I also found out this. So Spike Jonze, I worked in an office. Spike Jonze was there one day, and I recognized him because he just worked on the Weezer video. So the biggest Weezer video there is, the Happy Days video. Speaking of Buddy Holly. But I just was listening to Steve-O, which in my opinion, Steve-O, Alex Jones, and who else? Somebody else like Tony Robbins or whatever, whoever. They're unlistenable. I can't listen to their voice. It's just, I can't listen to their voice. And I'm not interested in fucking shredding making ear salad or ear coleslaw. It's like, oh, dude. Oh, yeah, I stapled my ball sack to my leg. I just don't care about that. But the interesting thing was, Jackass, those guys are broke. They're all broke. Bam Margera, he got extra money because, again, his family came in and they took over the business. They ran it like a business. His brain, he's going through brain salad right now. He's mush. I call it being cooked. I was cooked. And that's what they did. That's what they did to Nathan Stoltman from Lift the Veil. He's cooked right now. He's completely cooked. What he's saying, he's babbling on, he's not making any sense. He doesn't make any sense. Okay? But what I found out listening to Steve-O was that these guys, they don't get any residuals. Okay? They get no residuals. So Steve-O does his podcast out of a van. He probably lives in the van. I tried buying a van. I tried telling my family what was happening. No one would listen to me. I grew up with all women. And like I said, to this day, these bureaucrats are still up my keister. Fake gang members who are, you don't know how connected they are to the police department. You just don't know. Okay. And so, again, we're not here with any rose-colored glasses on. Even though I got my Charles Nelson stylies, I know you guys can't tell the difference. I know you can. I think I should stay down here when I look. That way you guys aren't getting some big reflection. I'm in West Hollywood. I moved out here so I can work, and I want to turn Linoleum Blown Apart into a television series. Okay? This is an original idea that I created while I was out here. And this was after I started working and people were effing with me and just nonstop over and over and over and over. And finally, my car broke down. And I could breathe and I could focus. And I said, you know what? I'm 56 or 7, I don't know, years old. I'm going to do something with my life, right? And what I decided to do is not only this show, this is how much power I have now. Again, I never thought I was hard or smarter, better, faster than anyone in the Detroit punk scene? Now I know I am. I never thought I was superior to anyone. Well, you keep changing the names of my songs and putting me down, calling me names. Now I know I'm superior. And I'm superior physically as well. Okay. So again, with the guys, I'll throw down. I don't give a shit. I don't really care. All they have are ad hominem attacks. That's it. As soon as I went back to Detroit, I was really wounded, man. I was an alcoholic. I told you I became my father. Okay. In 2004, I moved back to Detroit and it hasn't stopped. Name calling, breaking into my stuff. These are African American and white gangs. That way, in case you guys don't know, John Gotti, he was the Teflon Don because he was almost he didn't do anything. He didn't have a checkered past. You understand? Okay, and so that's why they thrust him to the fore, and that's why who the real earner was Sammy the Bull, and that's why John Gotti is dead and Sammy the Bull is actually still alive. Sammy the Bull was running the Gambino crew because why? Because they said, quote unquote, he was the earner. Now don't forget, I read Sammy the Bull's book as soon as it came out. Okay, and John Gotti ended up dead. Well, what did he die from? A toothache? Really? Are we supposed to buy that? A toothache? Oh yeah, it's like Bob Marley getting toe cancer. Well, more than likely, I told you about poisoning and things like this. This is what an old mob and biker tactic. It's what they do in the joint anywhere you go, right? So Brittany Murphy and her husband, right? They're poisoned. Okay, and so more than likely, John Gotti was poisoned, but he was the Teflon Don because they didn't have anything on him. But one of the things that happened was once he was in the joint, they started running game on him. There's a scene with him talking to a member of his kin, telling him to put $50,000 on somebody's books, and then he was hiring, one of the gangs to protect him inside the joint. Okay, and so more than likely he's hassled by one gang, which would cause him to run to the other gang. Okay, this is just a tactic, man. Once you understand these tactics, you don't have to worry about it. Like I said, it seems to me that the most people who give me shit are women. And I grew up with all women, and I'm not sitting here like I'm some Latin lover or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I'm an old punk rocker. That's what I am. I'm an old classic rock guy. My ideas are superior to anybody's. I'll go up against anybody's because you wouldn't have to steal my songs and you wouldn't have to put me down if I wasn't superior. And I know that I am, okay, in many ways. But again, you got people coming around you throwing their weight around. It's like, I'm not in a competition, pal, because if I was, let's get it on. I can pick up a guitar. I could write a song. That's no problem. So thank you very much for the intro. I always come at you with an intro. This is a neurological weapon. Even security guards are actually using it. That's how ubiquitous this thing is. Okay. We talk about orthogonality, and that's how they're able to tie it in neurologically. And I also talked about Elon Musk, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So let's take a nice deep breath. Let's go in and let's find out what's going on. I already read some of the lyrics to the Ballad of John and Yoko. Okay. Right. And he was crucified. Right. And it talks about them staying in bed, etc. They're right. 50 acorns tied in a sack. We wish you success. It's good to have the both of you back. Right. So I have, so what I put into the search engine, sorry if I'm going to be looking weird, because I want to be able to show you what I just don't know how to do that. So I put John Lennon as a drug courier into the search engine, and it just says that he was addicted to heroin. They said the fifth Beatle was heroin. That's salon.com, 2019. A detective who busted John and Yoko lifts the lid on corruption. Well, they were busted in the 1960s. They're talking about smoking weed with Dusty Springfield and George Harrison and all these. John Lennon, famous drug dealer, finally revealed. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Well, they're going to talk about somebody who is probably more than likely who was John Lennon's drug dealer. Okay. Right. Dr. Robert. Well, here you go. The real life Dr. Fryman who sold speed and drugs. Okay. So they're not talking about John Lennon himself as being a drug courier, right? They're saying, well, Dr. Robert, the song. I don't want to besmirch his name, even though I got my Charles Nelson stylies on. I'm not here to besmirch John Lennon's name, but I'm telling you, in the vein of Tom O'Neill and the Manson industrial complex that was created, this cottage industry, the medium is the message. Well, Manson was the message, and they created an entire cottage industry out of Manson, including a band called Spawn Ranch from Detroit. Okay, Spawn Ranch were around before Marilyn Manson. Okay, I keep trying to tell you guys, in Detroit, we had excellent music there. There were so many bands. If someone could have just captured that and had a record label and invested in it, they couldn't get anyone to invest in it. Like I said, my band wasn't invested in. I busted my ass for 10 years and I said, this, you're not going to support me. You're not going to support my band. Well, look at what it turned into. It turned into racism. I hate to say it, but it's really true. Okay. It's just a fact. And it's not my fault that people don't understand that there's no difference between the races. There's just difference between cultures. I was part of the oi punk culture. So there's no difference between me and somebody else because I'm part of that culture. So, again, with the media, you know how easy it is to point out somebody's differences? That's so obvious. You're like, people put people down for being quote unquote Captain Obvious. Well, what do you think Captain Obvious shit is? Oh, you're taller than him. Well, what are you going to say? You're darker. You're lighter. Okay. Okay. Wow. Yeah, the sun does different things depending on how long you stand in it. All that stuff is retarded. It's stupid. And so are the guys in my band. That's it. You guys are done. You come back in through a fist fight or we're not friends at all. And I'm 56 years old, guys. I think I might be 57. I might be 57. I don't know. Yeah. This was all through the Facebook app and it causes your brain to scrub. Okay. Thank you for joining my show. I really appreciate it. Please, you got to share my show. Okay. We're going to talk about John Lennon as a drug courier. John Lennon was a drug taker, just like me. I experimented with drugs until 2006. Okay. And I got sober between 2006 and 2009. Okay. I did it in honor of my father, James Thurman Eisen. I used that. Okay. I didn't use the mantra, stare it down and nourish what comes near you, which is a Beatles backwards lyric. Okay. I did it for my father because he gave me life and to honor him. Okay. So this is where my head was at around 2006. So I got sober. I locked myself in my room and I did it myself. After going to the state of Michigan numerous times, I need help, man. Please get me in a program. Hey, Gordon, go fuck yourself. This was gangs and people that started with literally some dumb ex-girlfriend of mine. I don't care about these people. Why? Because I cared about them up until 2022. You fucked up and fuck you forever. If I worked with you at Harmony House, if I was in a band with you, there you go. That's for you. You see Eminem do that a lot. That's what we do in Detroit. Go fuck yourself. That's what we do, man. Okay. I really like Eminem. I don't listen to that music, but he kind of resonates with me a little bit. I guess it's that closeness to 8 Mile and 6 Mile. I came up at 6 Mile and Gratiot. We had a movie theater right at the end of my block. The film that I remember is Tom Laughlin's Born Losers. That's a major film for me. To this day, I have a narrative for a motorcycle story that I plan on putting on Kindle. All my writing is on Kindle behind a paywall. Somebody bought The Big Kiss Off. It's about two girlfriends of mine. One was a Russian chick, and then one was my last ex-wife, who I'll never speak to again. She is a serial torturer. That's who she is. So I want to make sure you guys understand that. I can dox myself right now, and I will be doxing people in my band. I will be doxing people, especially a girl who sends her mother to get a police officer to start pushing me around. This is what these women do, because for whatever reason, she broke up with me, and then she lost her mind, and then she turned on the TV and saw me in some stupid Taylor Dane video. I'm talking about the 90s, guys. It's not my problem, dude. All right. I did a lot of work for MTV, and I just told you they were cheap. And I found this out within like a couple of years. But look at what I got through confirmation. Take a look at Steve-O's channel. He goes, we don't get any residuals. That's not the deal we signed. What did the Wild Boys and Jackass sign? A buyout. What did I sign? I signed a New York buyout, and they played my commercial 30 times a day for about 3 years. I did that commercial in 3 takes. It's not, I'm not like, oh, well, look at me. I'm like, whatever. I don't want to look at myself. It's bad enough I got to look at myself now. Sorry to all of you who got to look at me. Oh, boy. Charles Nelson Stylies. Right? I mean, if you don't know the difference between Sid and Marty Krofft and Seals and Croft, I know I do. I grew up in that era. And I talk about a lot of concepts. I'm very conceptual. I'm not afraid. I'm not intimidated by people. And I'm not afraid to talk about these higher ideas. Don't ever forget that you want to put down Kanye West. You want to say that he's bipolar. Well, guess what? He pitched DeFango, and Quentin Tarantino made it. Don't ever forget that. I don't listen to Kanye's music. I don't have anything in common with him except for thinking that Kardashians are hot and not Kardashians. Right? But he pitched DeFango, and DeFango was made. And to be honest with you, and I'm a big Tarantino fan. I like his entire, loosely group family. Everybody from Rodriguez to Roger Avery. All these I like that crew. I really love it. And there's more people like Alexander Rockwell and people like that in that crew. And I really do like him. And but look what he did. I consider DeFango to be a better film than The Hateful Eight, and I'm very sorry. I just do. It's my opinion, and I don't give my opinion unless it's well formed and well thought out. Again, don't forget, anyone can have an opinion, but you have to have a raison d'être. You have to have a reason behind the reason behind the reason behind the reason. You can't just spout off. I think the Kardashians are hot, but I think they're a great template. What? Number one, the fact that narcissism is fake. Calling someone a narcissist is fake. Why? Because they all had plastic surgery. And that means that they're seeing their flaws. They're not staring at themselves like they're beautiful. Why? Because we all see our flaws. We don't stare at ourselves like a wallflower. We just don't do that. Okay? And plastic surgery proves it. Right? Like I was saying before, I was making fun of Eminem. He sings about his mom being a crackhead. He kind of puts her down. So you have this theater of the mind picture for her. But when they make the film, they make it with Kim Basinger, who's basically one of the most beautiful women ever, right? And she played, I think, a Veronica Lake lookalike in L.A. Confidential. That idea was put forth by James Ellroy. He's a great writer. And James Ellroy started out as a peeping Tom. He started out as a petty criminal. I started out as a petty criminal. But I also, while I was getting my million words, I became a criminal in Las Vegas. And that's what people can't wrap their mind around, right? That's why they lock bathrooms and like do this stupid shit to this day. Well, these people have a bureaucratic mindset. I don't. Okay. My mother, a bureaucratic mindset. I call them obsequious Philistines. I don't. My wife, who I'll never see again, I hope she slithers back into the Atlantic Ocean where she came out from, a bureaucratic mindset. She was torturing me using this, coming through the Facebook app. Okay. I don't have that mindset. Okay. So again, I'm not here to aggregate the news, but we can tell they're sowing acorns. Okay. Guys, John Lennon was a drug courier. There is no doubt. How do I know this? Through circumstantial evidence. Okay. This is huge. If there's a book out there, maybe there's 10 books that say that John Lennon was a drug courier. Why would I know that? I'm not a John Lennon scholar. This is for somebody else. I'm putting it out into the Yeggieverse. What? I'm creating videos about it. And this information goes out there. And maybe one day when somebody's researching John Lennon, one of my videos will come up and they'll be like, oh, I never thought about that. This puts an entirely new spin on his death. His death could have been because of him bringing these drugs over. Okay. So let's take a look, shall we? And again, there's people who are still alive who can corroborate this. Okay. I should have had my glasses on the whole time. I'm seeing a big blur. Hey, don't worry. I'm not a comedian because if I did, I'd have 7 other podcasts. Okay. So painful. Ugh. So it's just the thing about if you're a quote unquote, like I can get up in front of a crowd and I can be goofy, but if you're a comedian, it's like they have this toxic positivity where they have to be funny all the time or think that they do. And it gets into like single dad joke territory where it's just like, ugh, cringe. Okay. So what we're using here, I'll try to keep my sightline down, is circumstantial evidence. That's how you build a case. Circumstantial evidence. Okay. We have Paul McCartney carrying marijuana right into Japan. Well, what does that mean? He knows his bags aren't going to get looked at. There was no TSA, guys. Okay. And when you take a look at Axl Rose when he got arrested in New York. Okay. Like I said, I've been arrested in New York. I went down to the Tombs. I saw something too with Colin Quinn. So he was talking about that. So the Tombs is the 5 corners. It's where, 100 years beforehand, they had the gangs of New York. Okay, whatever. But anyways, it's one police plaza now. So anyway, right. So you have these guys, and again, they're getting turned on to with marijuana with Bob Dylan. You don't ever hear about Bob Dylan. Oh, that's what I was saying. So you have Axl Rose getting arrested. So what did Axl Rose say? It's right on YouTube here. He's like, the cops were just being cool. They were just asking me all these questions and like talking about my music. And so like he wasn't thrown into, the worst cell, which is what happened to me when I got arrested one time. The one time I got arrested, the other time I got arrested, whatever, I was just taken down and ticketed. But, right. So they're just talking to him. Right. So what do you think is going to happen to John Lennon? So John Lennon was, according to some, a heroin addict, drug addict. He said, and I'm sorry I couldn't find it, but he said that he was carrying the pills. Now, understand something. When John Lennon and those guys were playing in Hamburg and they were popping what? Amphetamines. These were the same amphetamines that Johnny Cash and Elvis were popping. Okay? And so again, they're soaking in all this music. So by the day the music dies, I think that was like way before the Beatles, though. I think it was way before the Beatles. You can't really put it that close to the Beatles. I know we're going to get to it, guys. We're going to get to it. So let me just see. Let's just see Buddy Holly and when he died. let's see when the day the music died. And 59. Okay, so the Beatles don't come out until like 64. So, but again, but still you have this opening for this huge band. And we know that the band is part of this intelligence apparatus that's part of Tavistock, right? You have to keep this band making money. Everybody's making money off this band. And don't forget, they had the Romco Presents. K-Tel, I think K-Tel Presents, was a guy who wanted to put out John Lennon's rock and roll. And the guys from Capitol Records and EMI are like, no. This is John Lennon, the brand, guys. And you have to go back to the time where you understand that brand was important. Now you have brands all over the place. It's normalized. Britney Spears is a freaking brand, right? We all know that. I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying it's normalized, right? But you couldn't damage the John Lennon brand like that. He couldn't come out with a K-Tel Presents, right? And so all this other ensuing stuff occurred, right? And so it was really interesting. I talked about Duff McKagan, and he's talking to Hank from Black Flag, and he said he went up to Shooter Jennings' house studio rather to record his album, and he goes, yeah, it was great. It was like the Wall of Sound but without all the guns and the cocaine, right? And he said that, and it was totally tapped into the Eggyverse, or what I call the Eggyverse, right? He said that, and he was talking about who? Phil Spector, right? So he had that Wall of Sound, like he said, it was just like, he's like, no, I'll get the musicians. We'll record this record. He says, without the cocaine and the handguns. And that's what I was talking about in another episode. If you guys were watching my show, I appreciate it if you do. I appreciate it if you share my show. You can see I'm not cooked. Okay? I'm perfectly relaxed. I'm trying to grow my channel, trying to grow my show. I talk about a lot of crazy concepts. Why? Because I want to develop my own nomenclature. And I don't want to use other people's terminology, because that makes it more of a cool little honeycomb hideout right here on my show, right? That way we have our own people here involved in the show, okay? And I want you to get involved in the show. And I think what I talk about is actually somewhat important. So let's take a look. So we're talking about Holden Caufield, okay? So let's hit on that a little bit. And by the way, I do want to talk about A Rainy Day in New York. There's a film by Woody Allen. It's called A Rainy Day in New York. I highly recommend any Woody Allen films. I separate the art from the artist. That's what we do here. People are I used to call them poo-flinging monkeys. We're all poo-flinging monkeys. We're all fallible. We all make mistakes. I don't believe that we are actual animals. I actually believe that we are demigods, that we are between God or angels or daemons, whatever you want to call them, and human, well, animals, whatever, right? Do you understand? I think we're closer to God than we are animal. But in academia, they tell us that we're closer to animals. And I'm really worried that through orthogonality, through the monolith, I got to go with this hand. I can't, right? Or look, even there, look. I mean, there, right? Look at that. Philip Rothko started painting the monolith, but he was painting it on its side. I talked about that in one of my episodes. Okay. So this is the orthogonal shape. This was on Led Zeppelin's Presence as well. Okay. But they did it with a twist. Okay. And I think they're getting ready to re-release the Who's album that had it. And you take a look at the songs that are on Who's Next by The Who, that they're standing in front of the stele, i.e. the monolith, right? Take a look at the hits on that album. I mean, just one after another. The Who were huge. I saw The Who with The Clash in 1982, and there was no looking back. Duff McKagan got to see The Clash in the 1970s. That's how old of a punk rocker he is. And he plays with Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols. They play right here in LA. So they were, anyways. Jonesy's radio show was great. I highly recommend. Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols radio show. But what we're talking about is John Lennon. So let's take a look. Holden Caufield from The Catcher in the Rye. Holden Caufield has his own Wikipedia page. Okay, this should blow your mind. This alone, right, is mind blowing, right? Because let me see what I can do here. Beep, boop, boop. There it is. Holden Caufield has his own Wikipedia page. Why? Because he is the idea of rebellion, right? He personifies rebellion. And his first appearance is in a piece called I'm Crazy. There you go, right? Now, take a look at Mark David Chapman, who killed John Lennon, and John Hinckley Jr. Take a look at their wiki page on Wikipedia. I'm Wiki Alma Mater, okay? Anything I do, I look it up right on Wikipedia, okay? I have no problems with Wikipedia. I have no problems with, Google or any of these companies. I like Wikipedia. I think it's important. I was looking up a lot of stuff in physics. I use it for physics and just pop culture, okay? And everybody knows that the media is a cherry-picking fallacy. So, but I know for a fact that the son of a newspaper reporter in Detroit, fuck with the wrong motherfucker. Yeah, he picked a guy who looks like me to cover up a murder, which makes him an accessory to murder after the fact. But like I said, I didn't have any support for my band. Can I call it racist? I don't know. That's up to a lawyer. And don't forget, they were using this tech on me right here at Atelier 4 in New York City. And I was let go because they were crushing me, man. I was crying all the time. Coming from this, my wife knew all about it through the Facebook app. That's how they were coming through. And they were crushing me. And I lost my job. And I went and talked to the lawyer. And they go, did you want to make it about race? I've already been deposed by a lawyer. Okay. I've already talked to numerous lawyers. So when I make my lawsuit for a quadrillion dollars, I'm going to make it. Or, I'll die doing my show or however, man, right? I'm not afraid to go out into the world. And that's what I did. I left my old neighborhood. I went to downtown Detroit to better my life. And I thought that I did. Those people are trash to me now. There is no coming back. Then I went to New York to better my life. And I did. But what happened? I discovered that I was still, when I left my neighborhood, I was an alcoholic. Okay. When I left Detroit, I was still an alcoholic. When I was working in New York, guess what? I did it all while I was an alcoholic, just a beeraholic. When I moved out to Las Vegas, guess what I was? I was still a beeraholic. I moved back to Detroit. Guess what I was? When I was writing the songs for Linoleum Blown Apart that are in my playlist, I was a beeraholic. Okay? So I had to give that up. This month I was a beeraholic because of Napoleon, right? I was pitching my show. I had a couple of beers with a friend of mine, and it felt good. It felt good. I was like, oh yeah, that feeling again, right? But as a former alcoholic, which I was an everyday drinker, I drank every night. So I don't do that anymore, and I don't subscribe to AA. Why? Because I'm not going to feel bad about going out and having a drink. If I can't control it, then it's controlling me. So the fact that I can drink means that I can control it. Whatever, maybe I'm just justifying it. Who knows? Who cares, right? I don't want to overthink it too much. Let's go back into John Lennon. And I think we can see here that this was an operation. In the same way, like I said, Tom O'Neill was talking about the Manson industrial complex. You have this Catcher in the Rye narrative, right? Holden Caufield, his very first Appearance, 1945, says I'm crazy, right? Who was, where are we got here? J.D. Salinger, what did he do? He was in counterintelligence. What's counterintelligence? Well, it's protecting an agency's intelligence program, right? From the opposition's intelligence program. What was I talking about? I was talking about game theory. Okay, you got to protect. Okay, we have to come up with a counterintelligence solution to this. Well, what you're coming up with might not exist. Well, too bad. We have to come up with it anyway. So, and again, I think what they were doing in the pre-internet age was that they were telling other people in the intelligence operation that it was an intelligence operation by using Catcher in the Rye. Okay, I believe that that's what they were doing. They were cluing other people in. When you look at A Beautiful Mind, hopefully I'll be able to take a look at that film as well. But when you look at it and he starts looking through the newspaper, he's like, wow, this is coded. This is all coded at one point. Okay. And that's what they're talking about. COINTELPRO, counterintelligence. Okay. And that's what this Holden Caufield situation was. Right. And that sparred what's known as Jodie Foster's army. They were both talking about Jodie Foster. They're both talking about, right? And your heart has to go out to her, man. She must have been scared to death, right? Well, she started off as a child actress, and she's working with Scorsese, and they're trying to push this. They're tying it in with what? Taxi Driver and guys like that, right? It is interesting to note that when I was watching Taxi Driver, I just assumed that he was a Vietnam vet. But someone came up with the fact that there's a good chance that he wasn't a Vietnam vet. Well, you take a look at, he would have had a weapon issued to him if he was a Vietnam vet, but he went out and bought illegal guns. I'm talking about Taxi Driver, okay? I'm talking about the connection with Jodie Foster. I'm talking about they're connecting it to a crazy person. Take a look, guys, for yourself. Mark David Chapman, John Hinckley Jr. Take a look at these men. I'm looking at them right now. I'm flicking back and forth. Again, I apologize. I fucking low res, man. I'm sorry, man. I'm low rent. Take a look at the two men. They're nearly identical. They just happen to look identical, right? Look at me in David Strouder from Majesty Crush. Look at him. Look at him. He looks like he could be my brother. They were crushing us at the same time in 2017. And Fed rats in Michigan know it. Why? Because when this drummer put behavioral malware on my computer in 2021 and I discovered it, he ran like the bitch that he is. My own drummer of my band. And the African-American gangs swooped in. They released a video, some video of me, whatever. And this was throughout all the FBI, and then it was leaked down to my alleged friends from Harmony House. And when I went to go talk to my sister about it, you know what she did? She physically attacked me and told me to leave, which I wasn't even living there anymore anyway. That's how she can't even wrap her mind around it. And that's what these Fed rats are waiting for. So I don't care what movie that they made about Mark David Chapman or John Hinckley. I don't even know which one. I still don't know which one's which. And I don't ever want to know, because this was a total operation. And this was in the pre-internet era. Okay. And so we're able to figure this stuff out now. Why? Because we're higher minded, right? Don't get wrapped up orthogonally, man. Why are you being emotionally invested in some slogan? I see these people walking around with slogans on their shirt all the time. It's easy to fall into that trope. And we fell into it back then. Now, don't forget, when John Lennon died in 1980, boom, it was the American hardcore scene, right? That's how I came in. I came in playing hardcore, but in 1985, because I had to graduate high school. My mom wouldn't let me. So I stayed in the old neighborhood for 2 years, from the time I was 16 until I was 18. And then I was able to venture out and start going to these big shows. I saw the UK subs at Paychecks, right? So that was my favorite show. I had a girlfriend, Jennifer, at the time, right? So, and again, I work better with a partner, with a girlfriend. I tend to thrive, but the way it is now, I thought I was with my wife and she was part of an operation, and that's pretty scary stuff. Your own wife is involved in this. I mean, it's sick. It's really, truly sickening. So, but anyway, that's just the way it is. Solo layout. Okay, can I click this? I'm going to try clicking this. It says solo layout. Let me try going like this and then hit that. No, it keeps going back to solo layout. Okay, I'm just trying some new things. I'll have to try it sometime without broadcasting. So take a look at these two men. They're nearly identical. I'm sure if you read the wiki page, you could get more information out of it. To think that John Lennon was killed, well, take a look at John Hinckley Jr. John Hinckley Jr. shot Ronald Reagan in 1981, March, and that December of 1980, December, January, February, March. Okay. Beware the Ides of March. Look at that. Right? And John Lennon's killed around Christmas time. And I remember getting that album for Christmas. Right? Was it December 8th? Yeah. December 8th. I mean, listen, I hate to be so crass. I hate to be so glib. Guys, we know it's wrong. We know it's wrong. But how are you going to go through life not knowing that this is actually what happened? Right? It started off kind of rather innocently saying, quote unquote, Paul is dead. That started in Detroit, by the way. That started in Detroit at a Detroit record label. I'm sorry, Detroit radio station, I meant to say. Paul is dead, right? Because they ostracized Paul. They started changing things about Paul on the record, and he was kind of featured differently, right? But we know what? He was the prime mover. And we know what? John Lennon, he was doing drugs. Look at me. When that guy at work told me to get drugs, I got drugs and I was using drugs. But guys, I'm 56 years old. I knew how to use drugs. And also there's a modicum of you got to stop giving a fuck. And I hadn't figured out what happened with my wife yet, but I knew something was up, but I wasn't able to piece it together. And by doing the show, I was able to do that. And if they're using this to Neuralink us, man, it just feels like it's on the other side. The Neuralink is already here. You understand? And if the chip that Elon Musk is going to use is the dojo, that's 24 times as satiating. And so what they were doing for me, to me rather, was the same thing that they were doing with David Strouder from Majesty Crush. They were crushing us. And that's why he was acting out of sorts. And the police can say anything. Once you have this arrest record, when you go to David Strouder and you look him up, it just says he's off his meds. There you go. Guy's off his meds. Simple as that. That's why it was really dangerous what my sister did. And it was really dangerous what these pieces of trash in Michigan did. Guys in my own band. They set me up. That's how they set me up. And who knows, the setup could still be going on. Like I said, I'm not going to live my life worrying about it. There you go. I created Linoleum Bonaparte, man. It's one of the greatest ideas ever for a television series. It's a television series about punk rock, but it's also about cinema. Because you can't have, I don't know what side I'm standing up on. I always try to look spiffy. Because you can't have a punk rock band be about another punk. What are they supposed to do? Worship another punk rock band? There's They're going to worship this director. Do you see how great that is? And this director, their parents are going to remember, right? Their parents are going to remember this director. Like, oh my God, I saw a Spangled Banner. We were scared shitless because we thought the president had too much control. And that's what they were trying to do. If you guys know the narrative to a Spangled Banner, it's about a presidential candidate who becomes a murderer. So it's kind of silly, just like Dr. Strangelove. And what the military was trying to show is that the president has too much power. Like what? Just like with JFK. Don't forget, they set JFK up. They set JFK up for the Cuban Missile Crisis. Right? They're like, what are you going to do about it? I don't know. Well, you better do something, pal. You're the president. You're Mr. Good Looking. You're over here banging Marilyn Monroe. What are you going to do about it, tough guy? When you look at things through that lens, it changes a little bit now, doesn't it? And it's interesting. You have JFK and then you have JFA, Jodie Foster's Army, right? It just plays on words. Why? Because that's what's still prevalent. Don't forget, they showed Geraldo, King of the Skinheads. They showed the death of JFK on the Geraldo show in 1975. Okay, so by the time punk rock starts in 1977, all this stuff is still fresh. What's the biggest band? The Dead Kennedys. What's the greatest song? Whiskey Dick. No, Too Drunk to Fuck. Right? Every guy's been in that situation. Every guy has been in that situation, right? And so that's why I don't appreciate any ex-girlfriends of mine trying to shit talk me. Like, I thought we were friends. I thought you were going to give all that stuff up. And as a matter of fact, I went to be with one of these ex-girlfriends from Harmony House because I was so messed up. And they were convinced that they were going to continue to mess me up. And they were coming through the Facebook app and they were also coming through Twitter. And so when I went down there, I drove down there and I was also being harassed. And they were coming through the Twitter app as well. And so finally at the end in 2021, I was going to get off the Facebook app. And then here comes that girlfriend. Oh, make sure you friend him and you'll stay on the Facebook in order to get me to stay on the Facebook app. So this is why these guys are busted. I don't care if you're what FBI agent you married. I don't care. You got no right doing that. And my wife was involved. But the problem is, like I said, you're swinging at the fences, man. You're swinging at the fences. I know that there's females involved in this, right? Like I said, what are you going to do? Get revenge on somebody? I'm not here to get revenge. I'm here to get away from pieces of trash like that. And they did the same thing to David Strouder. And all any cop has to say is that, hey, this guy, he was out of control. And they could look at my past arrest record and they would have all this scuttlebutt. Well, I explained to you guys what happened with Joey Bootboy in Detroit. The guy lied about everything. And my friends were in on it. And it was all a big sham. He stole money from cancer kids. Like, what kind of person are you, dude? He stole from cancer kids. Like I said, when I was a petty thief in Las Vegas, people couldn't wrap their mind around it, right? They couldn't handle it. Well, so what? Some schmuck leaves a bucket of quarters in a machine. That's his problem. But take a look at what happened. These guys who were skimming money off of the Stardust, they were in their 70s and they got like 20 years in prison. And this is just, what? This guy's stealing money. Why don't you sell off all of his assets in order to retrieve some of the money back? Well, the fact is they threw him under the bus. And they did the same thing with Michael Franchise's father, right? You can see that. He's the one who had to pay the price for the racketeering and all the stuff that they were involved in. And he knew that his friends were like, basically saying, the bead's on you, right? Well, look what happened to me. Here I am, superior songwriter to any other oi punk band in Detroit in the 1980s. There is no doubt. Just listen to our song called Underclass. Listen to our song called Ludovico Technique. They're now under Linoleum Blown Apart, no longer part of grievance committee. There you go. They even created a fake grievance committee, right? And so they were going around rolling this cash for smell stuff everywhere. And then what did they do? In 2021, they released some kind of video. African Americans know it's on World Star Hip Hop. If you have a copy of it, go ahead and put it up. I'm not afraid to look at it. And these little flies, they bite, man. God damn, man. They hurt. So we're looking at this from a whole new light. Now, let me take a look. So I'm going to go through every single window that's open, and then we'll end the broadcast. If a person like Tom O'Neill could get involved in this, and I think if you could do the right interviews with Tony King, who are still alive, Yoko Ono's still alive, she knows, right? And I'm not going like, I'm just saying, right? Drugs were in that milieu, and he was part of it. And that would be like this huge, you want to sell some books, you could sell some books. Guys, I'm not here to sell any books. I'm here to actually write books. I'm here to write my book. I already wrote a book. It's called Two-Legged Animal. It's my memoir. I stand behind every word that I say in there. Okay? I was targeted because of this book. People couldn't handle it. I told you I used that same girlfriend on the cover, right? In a picture, I'll be showing you guys that picture as well. I don't know what happens in Detroit. Nobody talks to me, so that's cool. I left. I'm out here in Los Angeles now. So let's take a look. Oh, by the way, guys, huge news. Huge news, okay? Michael Burry, that's Burry, of The Big Short. I talked about this before. The economy is going to crash in 2027. Why? Because we're on a metonic cycle. And that's why they make fun of it with cicadas. Cicadas on a 17-year cycle. Okay? And then you have 2 years that you could play with, right? Because you don't know, maybe not all the duckies are in a row. Okay? So you have this metonic cycle of 19 years. And that's when these operations can take place. They can take place successfully, and they do so in conjunction with the moon. Okay? This is a metonic cycle. This is the moon. This is what Thomas Jefferson said in his writing. He said every 19 years, we need to get a new constitution. That's why I said that the Constitution is a joke. It's just spellcraft. Okay. I used to be a libertarian. Now I'm on the other side of being blackpilled, and I'm actually in Hollywood to get a job. I'm here to work. And if that means selling out, I guess it means selling out. I don't really know. I'm a working class guy. I told you I did more work in New York as an actor than anyone at the American Indian Community House. People didn't know what to do with me because I was mixed. So that's your problem. You don't even know what race is. Anyways, don't get me started. Okay, so the economy is going to crash in 2027. And Michael Burry just bet that put $1 billion down. He's from The Big Short. That's who Christian Bale was playing. Michael Burry, Burry. Look it up yourself. I read the new thing. The Big Short is a great film. It's just amazing film. Amazing. Ensemble cast. Okay. Michael Burry just bet $1 billion that the stock market is going to crash. I said the same thing here, and I said it before I had this information. Like I said, if this is a neurological weapon, perhaps we can try to reverse engineer this. Maybe we can tap into the eggiverse, is what I like to call it, because it's the cosmic egg. We don't say the World Wide Web, and we don't call it the Matrix. We call it the eggiverse. Why? Because we're having fun. We're creating our own nomenclature here on this show. Okay? I don't come on here and aggregate the news. I might talk about some boomer stuff like, but God, guys, the Beatles are timeless. And this was an operation. Let's go through each one of my windows that I have open. Okay. Mark David Chapman. and John Hinckley Jr. I think John Hinckley Jr. was going to be released from prison. That's the last thing I saw. I'll look it up right now. It's a little tough to do things. Oh, there he is. There's a picture of Jodie Foster from Taxi. Well, it says taxi driver, but he said blah, 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 whatever. Let's see. It has the trial, aftermath, insanity defense, right? Look at what's Holden Caufield. I'm crazy. Holden Caufield, his very first piece. Oops, I'm gassy. That came out. I'm crazy. So that's the narrative. So you're allowed to shoot shoot the president of the United States and get out of prison? Like, what? This runs anathema to anything we've ever learned about that. And again, like I said, my heart goes out to Jodie Foster at the time, but she kind of laughed about it. She laughed about the band JFA. Why? Because it was us punk rockers. And I believe she's around the same age as me. Let me take a look here. She's around the same age as me. Okay. So let's see when she was born. 62. Well, I was born in 66. Okay. So we're around the same age. So she saw the punk rock. And don't forget, John Belushi was into punk rock too. He was in a band called Fear. He was into a band called Fear. He actually played drums for the Dead Boys down at CBGB's. Okay. I'm a big Dead Boys fan. Dead Boys were the American Sex Pistols. I think, I don't know, they're probably out around the same time. Sorry, man, I digress. I know a lot of things about a lot of things. And don't come here expecting to see somebody whose mind is cooked. No. I expose the people who are involved in this. I am growing this show. I'm growing this channel. Okay. And you can see I can come on here and do a show just like Steel Toe. And I'm not here to aggregate the news. You can see the alternative new, quote unquote, news. I'm not here to aggregate the news. I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. All they do is take the alt-white position, which in my opinion is the right position, okay? Because the news itself is becoming the woke side, okay? So the news we know is leftist, moreover, and, you know, the alternative is known as alt-white or taking the right side of things, okay? But here, what we do is we pull the lens back. John Nelson Stiley. Right. We're able to pull the lens back. Okay. I was born in 66, just to let you know, I'm 56, 57. I say it every show, but whatever. Right. Trying to look spiffy. Always looking spiffy. Right. We try to pull the lens back a little bit and try to not be so reactionary. If there's something out there that's a slogan that could go on a t-shirt, you might want to steer clear of that a little bit. We don't put on a beret and change our name to Shay, right? So I think the next stream, I'm going to call it Panic in Detroit. I think some of those people need to panic. If I could ever get a decent lawyer behind me, I think that we could do some serious damage. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to be targeted, and I'm not here to be harassed, and I'm not here to lawyer up. I'm here to work on Linoleum Blown Apart. It's my novel. And what do you do when you read a novel, even if it is Catcher in the Rye? It's theater of the mind. So the ultimate thing to do would be to turn it into a 30-hour film, right? That's what an on-demand series is. I have everything worked out. All you have to do is have a pilot, right? And that's why I'm making these videos. I'm using Linoleum Blown Apart in the title. It's congressionally registered, but I can't congressionally register every single one of my properties like Golden Years. I'm showing you that I never run out of ideas. I got so much experience off of working just on Peacemaker alone that I was just like, enough. I don't really ever have to do that again. I understand what it means to work on these, right? Anyway, sorry. Okay, so we have Mark David Chapman, and he looks just like John Hinckley Jr. We have the She's so cute. Uh, we have, just this entire operation. We have it all done in the same year to scare the crap out of us. You have John Lennon's murder just in time for Christmas to buy the record. I got that record for Christmas. Okay. Somebody bought it for me. I believe one of my loving sisters did. And I say it every show. I'm very disappointed in my family and I hate my friends. I don't have to be disappointed in my friends because I can get into a fist fight with them, but with my family, I can't. And, we grew up in a very violent neighborhood, in a violent household. And for these things to occur all these years later, boy, you got another thing coming. I'm here to tell you. So I don't care if you're my sister or my sister-in-law. You can go fuck yourself or whatever it is you want to do. I don't appreciate you, and I don't appreciate anything that has to do with you. And I put it on video, and I'm not ashamed, and I'm not afraid. You want to have me killed? You want to have me arrested? Go ahead. You have all the power anyways. That's what I said, man. I'm an old punk rocker. What is the deal? What are people's problems? Well, the fact is they're trying to identify with me, and you can't. You can't identify with me. I'm too unique, okay? And, I'm just here to tell you, I don't know when punk rock was usurped by all white boys, but apparently sometime between the Geraldo Skins and American History X, people actually believe this music is about, race. I mean, it's just pathetic. And the guys in my band turned into these tropes, these stereotypes, and these pieces of trash. Why? Because I explained to you in these earlier episodes that they brought the Manson industrial complex out on the streets. That's exactly what they did. They're bringing this gang life and this gang BS out on the streets. Okay. And I'm not a part of it. I'm just not interested. I think it's weak. It just shows that you're clinging on to something that isn't really there. It just shows that you're not your own man. And, like I said, I'll die for my songs. I'll die for my writing. I'll die for my ideas. But I'm not going to go out like some putz and have a bunch of dumb cops and flatfoots accuse me of something that I didn't do. And that's what they did in Detroit. That's what they're ready to do. And you can forget that noise. And so there are no more friendships with these friends. And I will out those people right here on the show. I'll dox them. Absolutely. I'll show their picture and everything. Fuck around and find out. I think you did. So this is just a joke. Take a look at these men and then take a look at when this operation happened within months of each other. We were scared to death. It was the beginning of all this. So what did I get into? I got into punk rock, right? Holden Caufield actually has his own wiki page. That's how intensive this character was. And this is code for these people, just like in A Beautiful Mind. He's reading the newspaper and he's like, wow, this is coded. Well, that was code for people in intelligence agencies to know that this was an operation. Okay. And like I said, if I had the same grades as my sisters and I went into the military, I would have been tapped. Who was I tapped by? I was tapped by 1300 Bobian. I told you that story. They wanted me to become a cop in Detroit. I was already tapped at 1300 Bobian, where Elmore Leonard was hanging out, right? Who's like a hero to people like, John, not John, but whatever his name is, Quentin Tarantino, people like that. Okay. I talked about A Rainy Day in New York. Now, the character is called Gatsby. So this is to throw us off. Take a look at the film A Rainy Day in New York. I really love it. I love all of Woody Allen's films. Okay. I just do. He's a poo-flinging monkey. That's his business. Right? But they call him Gatsby. Why? Because he's to throw you off. He's just like Holden Caufield. That's who he is. And that's who I believe it was based on. But you can't base anything on Holden Caufield. He's in the coffin. If you say anything, it's like, oh my God, it's crazy. You have these connotations about crazy. Well, when I read about David Strouder and I saw that they were doing the same thing to me, here you go. Fuck you. I'll out any of these motherfuckers. And all they have are ad homs and jokes about LGBT and all that. And you should be ashamed of yourself, because what's going on in society is people are getting emotionally attached to these news stories. I mean, take a look at, some idiot like Kid Rock shooting beer cans, and then what happens a month later? He's drinking Bud Light. There's a picture of him. There's a timestamp there. And that's why I say, when these African American gangs came out with this video of me to try to put me down, guess what? It's timestamped, pal. It's timestamped. And just like other people, where it's just like, dude, all you have is your humiliation ritual. Well, guess what? I was slapped, beaten, and humiliated when I was a little kid. I write about it in my book, Two-Legged Animal. Okay. So we're going to wrap it up here. J.D. Salinger, he was part of counterintelligence, and he was part of the Ritchie Boys. Who are the Ritchie Boys? They were a special collection of soldiers with sizable numbers of German and Austrian recruits in military intelligence. He was one of the Ritchie Boys. Okay, this looks like Operation Paperclip. I'm not putting it down. This isn't Godwin's Law. Everything reduces to World War II. It's not my problem. I don't put people down for being from the Levant. I don't call people groypers on this show. I don't do it, and I don't appreciate it. I think people who do it are low IQ. And all this stuff gets picked up as chatter, like I said. Running around calling people pedos, calling people groypers. I mean, this is just wrong, and we all know it. Okay? It's for lower-minded idiots. We have Michael Burry saying the same thing as me. Michael Burry knows about this metonic cycle. If he doesn't, then he knows about it like psychically. And that's what I'm talking about here on my show. I'm talking about tapping into the Aggieverse. And if you're going to torture me, tortures of the damned, sir, tortures of the damned. If you're going to do that, well, then I'm going to use it against you. How do you like them apples? All right. So we're back to what? Orthogonality. Now I need you to take a look at this. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and copy that for you guys. I hope I got some watchers. I hope I did this right. I hope I did this right. I hope I can get some watchers. I usually get about 20 watchers. You got to share the show. You got to send this show to other people. Okay? I'll go on to anybody's podcast. I actually talk about real people on the show. I grew up at 6 Mile and Gratiot, and I have more celebrity sighting stories than anybody. And I'm nobody, right? You never heard my stories before. And again, they're just celebrity sightings. They're whatever. I think they're fun. So take a look, orthogonality, guys, and then check out this. This is the orthogonal matrix. And it's a mathematical, I always talk about being mathematical. Check out the orthogonal matrix and look at the mathematical formula. Okay? It's all Q. Right? QT is the transpose of Q. So I don't know what Q is. I guess it's the square matrix. It's the orthonormal vector, I guess. Right? Q is the vector, right? It's the orthogonal, right, vector. But it's the 17th letter. What were they all about? Q Roseanne. I believe Roseanne was actually canceled out of Hollywood for that reason. And this is just bizarre to me. I am not a political animal anymore. Okay? If I get money, I'll buy a house or a condo. If I have a condo and I have a house, or I'm sorry, if I get money, I get a condo, then I register to vote. Okay? Then my vote matters. Then you can get involved politically. right? But until that time comes, I'm not going to emotionally invest in a presidential candidate that could get me beat up. What do you care who I vote for? Right? So we can see this thing is getting out of control. Take a look at what happened with taxi driver guys, right? This sets the template. Oh, this guy, he's a big fan of Taxi Driver. Now look at him. He tried to imitate Taxi Driver. Oh my God. Well, then you have this piece of shit from Royal Oak, Michigan, and their fucking mommy creating bullshit stories just like that. And everybody buys it. You understand? Everybody buys it. You see how easy it is? Boom, just like that. Let me tell you something, MFers. And if this doesn't apply to you, it doesn't apply to you. I am not going to be bullied. And I'm not going to be put down, and I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to continue my life's work. I am telling you, these people in Detroit are insane. They crushed my band. And when I said, fuck you, and I left, they couldn't believe it and they couldn't handle it. And they started gossiping about me. And I started this broadcast. I said, you whisper in somebody's ear and let it go around the room. When it comes back to you, it comes back word salad, man. It comes back word salad. Absolutely. Has nothing to do with the original intent. That's why I said, man, on Facebook, I thought we were friends. We are not friends. I left my old neighborhood to get rid of all the shooting dope and shooting guns. I go down to downtown Detroit and I find something that's even more sinister. That the fact is that the dope dealers are connected to the police department. I told you, they tried to tap me. The reason I didn't want to get involved in the police department in Detroit, I was young. I didn't know that. I believed in white hats and black hats. I thought that I was going to get busted because I like doing a little bit of yay on the weekend. Right? There's nothing wrong with it. Drugs are decriminalized. And this is what I'm here to tell you. All hail John Lennon. God bless John Lennon. God bless his family. Bless him. Why? Because he was smart enough to see that this is stupid. Drugs should be decriminalized. There's nothing wrong with doing drugs. Me and my old lady, we do drugs. What did John Lennon do? I used to be cruel to my woman. I beat her and kept her apart from the things that I love. Man, I was mean, but I'm changing my scene and I'm doing the best that I can. No one calls him a wife beater, but I got some piece of trash skank, some ex-girlfriend of mine, plus another piece of trash that I don't even know, acting out my arrest. What does that have to do with you? Were you going to go to prison? I was going to go to prison. This girl who was dealing ecstasy, who I got a domestic with in New York, I don't mind talking about it. I'll talk about it. And yeah, it was the worst thing. Again, I can't talk for a victim. I'm not going to talk for her. I can only talk for myself. And it's the worst thing that ever happened to me. And that in that moment, you kind of realize it's like, whoa, you know that it's wrong. And you kind of know that you are raised wrong. And I hate to say it because everything is subjective in my family. Ugh. The first thing they're going to say is, oh, they raised you better than that. It doesn't work this way, guys. It works psychologically. You come up in a violent world, in a violent household, then violence kind of can follow you. Now I don't have to worry about it, right? Because it hasn't happened, but it didn't happen before and it hasn't happened since. But what happened with my fucking piece of trash ex-wife? She was banking on it. And when I wasn't going to capitulate because it's not in my personality to do that because it was a one-off mistake. You guys have no idea how high the stakes were, guys. I was making, at the time, I was only making $150 a day, but I was making $175 a day. And I had people begging me. I could have moved so much product. My life could have been completely different. And I knew this chick was going to get busted. I knew it. And I knew she was acting out. And, again, it's like one of those things. It's like, you don't love somebody. All you got to do is just tell me, man. Don't act out passive aggressively, right? So just like in The Sopranos, I learned my lesson. I learned it the hard way. That's how I learned everything, man. I learned it the hard way. But you can see I still come on here. I still got a good sense of humor. I feel bad. I'm not going to sit here and lie. The best thing that I got going for me is the fact that on these broadcasts, you can't lie. Nathan Stoltman is cooked, man. And I don't think I'll ever bring him up again. I might unsub to him. It's unwatchable. He's cooked. He's done. He's not making any sense. I can pass any forensic exam. I can pass any lie detector test. I'll do anybody's podcast. You can read between the lines. Right? I'm usually in a pretty better mood, but this is a really somber story and notion. Just knowing that this was an operation. Look at it. Pull the lens back. Look at these guys. They're identical. Look at when this happened. Look at what they say about Holden Caufield himself. I'm crazy. Take a look at a beautiful mind. Okay? Well, I might do something about that, but I kind of want to move on. I'm kind of done talking about this neurological tortures of the damned. I already did an episode about how I am the Clockwork Orange, how my life was very similar. I ended up hurting somebody regretfully, right? Alex, right? He's acting out with his droogies. Right? And he's taking what? Drugs. I was doing the same thing with this broad. We were doing cocaine. Okay. We weren't doing ecstasy. Ecstasy was for sale. Like, I don't know these people who are doing ecstasy every weekend, but right? And don't forget the girl who in New York was selling ecstasy on behalf of a Gambino soldier was she was having sex with a lot of guys. Okay, I wasn't cocked. You understand? Like, I was having sex with women too, and so she was having sex with a lot of people because we're in our 20s. What are you gonna do? You're in your 20s. You're in your 30s, right? By the time I became a production assistant, I was working with a lot of 21-year-olds and 22-year-olds right out of college. And I was 30 some odd. I don't know. I'd have to do the math, whatever. Right? Let's just do it while we're here. That way I kind of know this stuff. 1966 minus 1999. So yeah, 33. There you go. It's kind of obvious. So, the maths, right? So I'm in my 30s and I need to change. And that's why I left. But take a look at Alex. What happens? He hurts a woman a little bit too much, right? He's living the droogie life. I was living that life. Even though I was working, I was a production assistant, I was an actor. I got a lot of work, but I'm in a scuzzy place and I'm doing drugs. And I'm going down to 7B. If you guys ever want to see where 7B is, it's in Crocodile Dundee, the first one. He goes down there. There's a trans person down there. This is what I can't understand. Okay, so I'm living in New York City. I'm living at a flop house at 23rd and the West Side Highway. Okay, on 24th Street, still over there. There's all the galleries and stuff are over there now. But I was there. I was staying at a flop house in 1990, whatever it was, 1997. I mean, I was there from like 1992 to 1999, and it was just like, that's 7 years. But I started working as an actor in the 2 years before. So that's why I say I was an actor and a production assistant for 10 years. I was a musician for 10 years, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So I'm at a flop house at 23rd and the West Side Highway. So when I would get up in the morning, right, whether I had to work, whatever, I would go out there and guys from Connecticut and New Jersey and obviously New York would turn down the street on 24th from the West Side Highway. Okay. And they would go down there for a quickie blowjob. And the women down there, I only saw a couple of white chicks. Yeah, I'm not trying to be racist or whatever. There was African American women, prostitutes, and there were men. The men were white, and the men were tall, and the men had nice long legs. You see this to this day with trans individuals. They're very thin, and they catch your eye. You're like, "Whoa, who's that chick?" And they had the long hair. And so once you go, you pull down the street, you look, and then you kind of know that it's a guy. No offense, they're passable now, but back then, they call it a trap. They would call them traps back then too. No offense, right? I'm part of the LGBT community here. I don't have any problem with what anybody does. If I consider myself a maroon fetishist, right? If you have to label somebody, you want to label me, my ethnicity is a maroon. I'm maroon. I have more ethnicities in me than I think a lot of other people. And that's what makes the maroon. But anyways, we're talking about the nostalgia for the gutter. We're talking about the low life. We're talking about Hubert Selby Jr. We're talking about Nelson Elgren, right? I said Tom DiCillo. Who's the other guy? DeLillo? Don DeLillo. I read his books. Paul Auster. I read his books. Guys, that's all I was reading. Iceberg Slim. I'm reading his books. Okay. And so I'm living this low life. I stayed in flop houses, Jane Street, chicken coops. And so getting a trans blowjob in New York is like a rite of passage. You're just like, oh, well, right. And it's just like they put a condom on and they suck you off. It's like, right? You get a blowjob. It's like, whatever, $5, $10, $20, whatever it is. And these people are just sex addicts. And I would watch them. I told you, Connecticut, New Jersey, upstate New York. I would watch them. And they were all suit and tie guys. And they were all on their way to go down to Wall Street. They're going down to the Twin Towers, okay, to work. And they just want a quickie blowjob. And they would pull down for a blowjob. Okay, so city living. I lived in Detroit, New York, Las Vegas, and now I'm in Los Angeles. Thank God. Thank you for having me here. Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here. I really do. I want to become part of the community, and hopefully I can die here because I sure as fuck ain't gonna die in Michigan. That's for sure. I'll be angry for the rest of my life about that. I'll be angry for the rest of my life. I don't really care, right? Because I actually have to feel something. So we're gonna let you go here. I'm not here to aggregate media deep blue stories. What we're doing is we're doing something completely different. We're doing a different take on things. And I just want to say thank you guys very, very much for watching. I'll always be talking about Linoleum Blown Apart, which is my pitch for a television series. I'm hoping to get some work. If I do get work, I'm going to invest the money into the community because that's what you do, and I tell you to go fuck yourself, but your dick's not long enough to reach your own asshole.